Good evening everyone, welcome to my fourth video. Today I will be reattaching my top box onto my Suzuki van. Okay, so I've had this top box on there before. You probably have seen it in the past video, but it dropped off because the previous owner attached it so poorly it was horrendous, so I'm not surprised. It was quite funny actually. It was hanging off the side of the bike here. I looked like a pannier, and I was driving to work in London. No one really thought it was any different. They didn't say anything, so I'm a bit surprised at that. Well, they just thought it was a pannier on one side of my bike. But there you go. So obviously attaching a top box is basically about attaching the plate as best you can. I've gone for a relatively simple option where I'm going 2 bolts centrally. Then that's going to be the sort of the packing, as it were, because if I was to mount the plate directly on there, you can see it's sort of leaning back a bit too far for my liking. And I've tested it out, and the box leans back too far. So what I'm going to do, this manky piece of wood, that manky piece of wood is sort of my packer. Obviously that's not exactly how it's going to be, and that sort of brings it back level-ish. And then you can see there, there's a nice line where the seat ends and it just tails off, and that looks about right. And that's actually how it was before when I bought the bike. So that'll look great. What I have also made is this thing. Now this is a piece of steel which I have drilled 2 8mm holes there and there, and actually covered it in old bicycle tubing, which you don't have to do, but it just sort of grips that a bit better. So that's going to go in here. So as those of you with a van rack, you'll see there's this gap here, this wedge section where 2 poles come together. That's going to go in there, wedge that in there. Piece of wood is going to go there, up against the 2 bolts. Plate on top. Plate on top. Difficult with one hand. And the bolts go down through into the holes that I've made on that piece of metal that I bought for £5 from the builder's depot, something like that. Drilling holes in it was quite tough, and getting that this sort of pointless. I wasted a lot of time doing that, but it's going to be nice because it's quite grippy. Getting the sorry, it's late, I'm tired. Getting the, what are these? Bicycle inner tubes on there, then cutting the holes, etc., was quite arduous task. But I think that's going to work quite nicely in gripping and not moving. So let's see how it goes. Right, here's the installation process. Okay, wood's there. That is in the wedge, centered as best as possible. That is going on top. Now my inspiration in this is, in terms of the way I'm putting it on, is just looking at the Givy plates and how they come, and they come in just 2 mounting points really, so they keep it really simple. but very sturdy. So I'm just sort of just following that. Don't really want to do too much. The more there is on there, the more to go wrong, come loose, and so on. I've also got these things. Now, if you remember before, if I take that out, this is covered in inner tube, and what happens is that's going to be a nice sort of washer on the other side as that comes in, and then tying up a nut on there, and that'll pull nicely on there, very nicely, and it will squish up and squash, just get really nice and sticky and sturdy. So I'm quite happy with that. Just so you know, getting this stuff on there takes forever, and you almost need to be a bit of a sad act to do this. You know, a little bit of a bit self-critical maybe, but I do think it's going to work really well. When I was testing this, I had these normal nuts. These just will come loose, these normal ones. So I've got as well these Loctite ones with blue on the inside. They do not come loose. They are great. They lock tight, as it says on the tin. Get some of those a little bit more expensive, harder to find. My girlfriend's dad actually gave me these, so grateful to him for that. Down in there, through the hole. I recommend getting this all together loosely and then adjusting perfectly once it's all on. So the bolt is in there, in there, going down through the hole, through the plate that I've made. It's a bit of a fiddle, especially with the inner tubing on there, because it's quite grippy. Now, like I said, I've got these huge washers. Got a bit of a rounded edge on one side, a bit sharp on the other, so the rounded edge can go up against the inner tubing and the plate. And my Loctite nut is going to go on afterwards. Loosely, first of all, as I said, so that I can make some adjustments. Cool, one side done. Other side to do. These got these little washers on the top here that will protect the plate at the top as that comes down, because you'll end up spinning that. What washers are designed to do is sort of stay still as you spin the bolt, so you don't grind into the top plate. Second bolt going through the hole on my rubber plate. Big old washer. And there. Loctite nut. Little fiddly, always going to be fiddly, but it's the name of the game. Okay, so that plate is on there now, and it's on loose. So what I'm going to do is just look up and down the bike and just try and, that's quite a convenient arrow shaped triangle there. Just look up and down and get it as straight and bang on as I can, really. It doesn't really matter, but if you can do a job, do it right, really. I'm going to get the piece of wood as far forward as possible. Get the wood flush up against the bolts, which it is, and then flush against the bolts, which it is, and then I'm going to bring the whole thing as far back as I can. The reason why I'm doing that is because sometimes, I know it's a little bike, but I do have a pillion passenger every now and then, so you want this as far back as possible to give her as much space as possible. And by no means do we ever go very fast, because you cannot go fast, two people on this bike. Look under it, try and see if the bolts are equidistant from the two poles of the rack in the center. It's center, so then you're good to go. Time to tighten up. For that, I have 13mm spanner, goes on the bottom. Ratchet screwdriver goes on the top. There we go. Now, as you tighten, you'll knock it out of adjustment. You have to remove it, but that's fine. So I've moved it already. But there's not much you can do about that. These Loctite nuts are always going to be more difficult to do up. So just a little bit harder. That's because they're going to be a lot harder to undo by the natural vibration of the bike, etc. So just take your time, get it relatively snug, and then readjust. Okay, so now it's still not super tight. I'm just going to do a quick readjustment. As I said, I want the wood flush up to the bolts, but then I want the whole thing to come backwards. Make sure it's good and centered. That's looking good, looking very good. It's time to go gung-ho. Tighten whole thing up. Now I'm reaching the end of getting it on. I'm going to do a final tighten up with that, and that's looking dead straight. Dead straight. And then from the side, that is nice and level. Good parallel lines between that part of the Van Van rack and the plate, thanks to the piece of wood that's gone in there. I think I'm done. That is as solid as it's gonna get. I mean, I'm pretty sure I can lift the bike with this. That's not going anywhere. Absolutely solid. I have these old nuts that came with the bike when it was fitted. I think I might just stick them on, you know, additional bit of doodah, why not? 2 bolt layers, living the dream, some would say. Nut layers, sorry, God, not bolt layers. Talking absolute shite. Okay, so we are all done. Top box is back on the bike, I think looking great. And I know some people may think top boxes on a Van Van does sort of ruin it a bit, but they are very useful. Pillions like them, and I think this one with the white, it looks as good as a top box is going to look on this bike. So I'm quite happy with it. Nice and level. There, nice and level. Excellent. So if you've enjoyed the video, you've learned something from it, please subscribe. There will be a subscribe button there next to the rear wheel. Please do that. This guy over there, look at me. Like, please comment and share, and turn on notifications. I don't upload too often, so it will really help me if you view all my content. Thank you very much, and subscribe. Bye.